Order, please.
I'd like to call the meeting to order, if I may, please. And if I could have a mover and a seconder to confirm the agenda, please. Councillor Harper and Councillor Forrester, all those in favor? That carries. And if I could ask if there are any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Does anybody have anything to declare? No? Okay. I apologize to everybody in the audience. I'm a little nasal from a cold. So, I'd like to welcome all the guests in the audience to this Planning Public Council meeting on behalf of myself, members of council, and our staff. Tonight's meeting is being live streamed, and any participation in meeting procedures will become part of the public record. The recording from tonight's meeting will be published on the county's website immediately and can be viewed by selecting the streaming tab on the county's homepage. This meeting is a public meeting as required under the Planning Act and will deal with the planning applications listed on the agenda. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the County of Prince Edward on the proposed official plan amendment, you must sign the sign-in sheet located at the podium, or make a written request to the clerk of the County of Prince Edward. If a person or public body would otherwise have an ability to appeal a decision of the County of Prince Edward to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, or LPAT, but the person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the County of Prince Edward before the proposed amendment is adopted, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal a decision to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal. Deputations will be limited to 10 minutes each. If there are no identified deputations on an application, committee will proceed directly to the recommended motion without a staff overview. The Committee of the Whole will consider and vote on each application separately, immediately following any staff remarks and comments from the applicant and/or any member of the public. Please note that there is potential that matters raised at the public meeting may result in the written staff recommendation being amended verbally at the meeting. Motions that receive a 2/3 majority vote in favor of the staff recommendation will be approved and final at tonight's meeting. Motions that do not receive a 2/3 majority vote in favor of the staff recommendation will be referred to staff for further information or deferred to either the next Planning Public Council meeting, and determination will be made at that time if further public notice is required, or to the next council meeting for a final decision. As matters of housekeeping, to exit the building, in the event of fire, please use the stairs outside the door of the chamber or the stairs off the committee room to the left. Please do not use the elevator, and if everyone could please either turn off or mute their cell phones. If I could now have a mover and a seconder to move into Committee of the Whole. Councillor Margetson, seconded by Councillor Forrester. All those in favor? Thank you. Councillor Maynard, hand the meeting over to you, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Okay, I will ask planning staff to confirm that public notices for today's meeting were provided in accordance with all Planning Act requirements.
Through the chair, yes, they were.
Thank you. And at this time, I'd like to advise that the following applications, which were advertised, have been deferred and are not on this evening's agenda. Charles Douglas Mason, 70 Belleville Street, Wellington, consent and rezoning file B6919 and Z6519. And Jessica Schnur, 1244 County Road 2, Bloomfield, Hallowell, official plan amendment and rezoning numbers OPA 82 and Z6719. Okay, so we'll move to item 5.1 on the agenda. I'll ask staff if they have any additional comments on this application.
Through the chair, no, we do not.
Okay. Is the agent or applicant present, and are you in agreement with the conditions of approval as outlined in the report? If you can just state your name for the clerk and
My name is Pamela Strachan.
And you are in agreement with the conditions?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this application? Seeing none, is there any questions from committee? Seeing none, Councillor St. Jean, Councillor McNaughton. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. St. Jean McNaughton motion that the report of development services dated January 15th, 2020 regarding consent file number B68-19 and zoning bylaw amendment file number Z64-19 be received. That the consent file number B68-19 Pamela Strachan for lands located in Part Lot 455-456, 472-474, Plan 24 Picton, Part 2, 47R 4439, Part 1, 47R7 328, ST interest in PE 1647124, Ward 1 Picton, be approved subject to the following 12 conditions. And that zoning amendment file number Z64-19 for lands located in Part Lot 455-456, 472-474, Plan 24 Picton, Part 2, 47R4439, Part 1, 47R7 328, ST interest in PE 1647124, Ward 1 Picton, be approved.
All in favor? And that carries with the 2/3 majority. Okay, we'll move on to item 5.2, Chris and Karen Wannamaker. And I will ask staff if they have any additional comments on this application.
Through the chair, no, we do not.
And I'll ask if the applicant or agent is present and if you are in agreement with the conditions of approval as outlined in this report.
Good evening. My name is Ray S.C. Ambry. I'm the agent for Chris and Karen Wannamaker, and they concur with the staff recommendation and the conditions.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this application? Seeing none. Is there any questions from committee? No? Councillor Margetson, have a seconder on that? Councillor Forrester?
This is a Margetson Forrester motion that the report of development services dated January 15, 2020 regarding consent file numbers B70-19 and B71-19 and zoning bylaw amendment file number Z66-19 be received. That consent files number B70-19 and B71-19 Chris and Karen Wannamaker for lands described as Part Lot 85, Concession 4, Part 1, 47R 4623, Ward 4, Ameliasburgh, be approved subject to the following conditions 1 through 12, and that zoning amendment file number Z66-19 Chris and Karen Wannamaker, part of Lot 85, Concession 4, Part 1, 47R 4623, Ward 4, Ameliasburgh, be approved.
All in favor? And that carries with 2/3. Okay, item 5.3, Eileen Hearn. And again, I'll ask staff if they have anything further.
Through the chair, no, we do not.
Okay. And I'll ask if the applicant and agent is present and if you are in agreement with the conditions of approval as outlined in the report.
It appears the Hearns are not in attendance.
So if we don't have anybody to confirm that they're in favor of the conditions as presented, doesn't matter?
Typically, we proceed.
Right, I just confirming. Okay, any questions, or sorry, anybody in the audience that would like to speak to this application? No? And any questions from committee? No. Councillor Nyman, would you like to take this, a seconder? Councillor Harper?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a Nyman Harper motion that the report of the Development Services dated January 15, 2020 regarding consent file number B74-19 and zoning bylaw amendment file number Z69-19 be received. That consent file number B74-19 Aileen Hearn for lands located in part lot registered compiled Plan 33 Part 3 47R5461 Ward 2 Bloomfield Hollow all be approved subject to the following conditions 1 through 12, and that the zoning amendment file number Z69-19 Aileen Hearn for lands located on part lot 2 registered compiled Plan 33 Part 3 47R5461 Ward 2 Bloomfield Hollow all be approved.
All in favor? That carries with 2/3. Item 5.4, Micheal de Lint, Mirene de Lint, Willem de Lint, Robert de Lint, and Marie Pascos. I'll ask staff if you have anything anything further to report.
Yes, this one we do have something to say. So hopefully everyone received the community conservation comments. They were late, so they did not make it on the agenda package. So we provided the council with that yesterday, as well as it is currently on the agenda package. This was due to, we circulated to community conservation mid-December, and with holidays and things like that, it is understandable that we received it late. Or not late, but functionally on time. But basically this application looks to sever 2 new lots from a 17-hectare parcel on Loyalist Parkway. As you can see, there are some, Queen Conservation has ground truth, the EP zoning there. So they went out and flagged where the EP boundary is. So it should be noted that no EP lands are being removed and no EP lands are being developed on. They went out and ensured that there was the proper EP zoning. And it should be noted that the setbacks required from the county and the Quinte Conservation are sufficient to protect environmental features and leave sufficient building footprint. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll ask if the applicant or agent is present and are in agreement with the conditions of approval as outlined in the report.
Yes, I'm Bill Rohrbeck. I'm representing the property, and Micheal de Lint, the owner, is with me today, and we were satisfied with the comments.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this application? No? Oh, sorry. Yes.
Can I just ask a couple of clarifications?
Yes. Yeah. Just come to the podium and state your name for the clerk.
I apologise. My name is Clive Bennett. My wife and I own the property immediately to the north of the subject lands as shown on this drawing. We own the property. I think it's described here as Lot 31. It's on the southwest corner of Partridge Hollow Road and 33. So we're immediate neighbours. I didn't quite catch what you said because I was sitting behind you, and so no, it's all right. But it says in this document, the environmental protection zone boundaries within the severed and retained parcels have been adjusted in consultation with, and yet I gathered from what you said that they're actually not being adjusted, that no EP lands, no wetlands down there are being transferred or moved, no boundaries. So I just wanted to get a clarification of what it says in this document.
So yes, I think it's appropriate. Go ahead. You can. Yes.
Through the chair. So what we do, not all our zone boundaries, so EP zoning, it's not all ground truthed. So when applications like this come forward, we take this opportunity to consult with Quinte Conservation to go out and mark the proper boundaries. So in this case, the EP boundaries that we had zoned were improper. So
I'm sorry,
we're improper. So they weren't properly marked. So this Through the Quinte Conservation going out and flagging the proper boundaries, we adjusted the EP boundaries to reflect the actual EP boundaries.
So did the EP boundaries, does the EP land become smaller as a result of this activity or not? I think you said they don't become smaller, it's just there was some doubt about where they really were previously.
Right, so they don't actually become smaller because the lands weren't what we have zoned currently as EP, or were zoned EP, weren't actually environmentally protected lands. So functionally, they didn't become smaller because they were never actually, they were just zoned improperly.
Thank you. The other clarification is simply that I only moved here, my wife and I only moved here about 5 years ago. And when we bought the property immediately to the north of us, it was represented to us that the county had a long-range plan, an official long-range plan, and that the notion of subdividing land like ours was not going to be favourably regarded by the county because there was an intent, particularly along the lines of 33 of Loyalist Parkway, to retain that land as people came into the county as being agricultural, and that we should, if buying this property, not be thinking about it in terms of severing and developing such land. And we were fine with that because that was our intention and respected the notion of these lands remaining agricultural. And I'm not sure just what's happened in the meantime, or if this continues to be the case, and whether this application and any approval thereof are consistent with what I was told, or if I'm simply naive and misunderstood what I was told 5 years ago.
Well,
I think I'm addressing the chair. I'm not sure who to address.
Yes, no, it comes through me. I mean, I guess I can ask that, but it's difficult to determine because it depends, what the source of that was. So.
Through the chair to Mr. Bennett, the county is undertaking an update of its official plan and has been undergoing that process for a number of years now. So I think probably what you're hearing is some of the draft policies as they were discussed in some of the initial open houses and during some of the policy development sessions that were completed, as well as some of the background studies that were drafted and adopted by council. So there might be some move in that direction, but the official plan remains draft, so it's not in effect yet.
So you're still open to lands being severed up and down 33, and what I previously understood was mistaken.
Through the chair, so we're still living with the existing official plan policies, not in the simplest or most direct policy in this case is the policy of permitting a maximum of 2 severances from any parcel that existed as of 1998, and this one qualified for that.
Okay, those are the only clarifications. I thank you very much.
Okay, and is there any questions for the deputant from? I think we have a sorry.
I don't want to belabor the point, but just on the
Mr. Rohrbach,
oh, sorry.
just give us a sec. I'm going to allow first Councillor Forrester to ask Mr. Bennett a question.
Just a quick question, Mr. Bennett. May I ask who told you that about no development going across from where you purchased?
I'm sorry.
Who gave you that information?
I don't recall. I think the people that we bought the property from, the real estate agents that were involved. We've subsequently had visits and discussions from the company that is representing the people who want to open a winery and a hotel, a 50-some room hotel right on the opposite corner of this intersection. They also have all talked about the fact that there was a long-range plan and this intention of the county to retain this as agricultural and so on and so forth. So I've heard it from a number of sources over that 5-year period.
But it was never told to you by county staff that there could be no development. That's just what I'm looking to see right now.
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question for Clive.
Okay, sorry.
Clive, sorry, I just wanted...
Councillor Margetson.
Sorry.
That's okay, fine.
Clive,
Yes,
I wanted to know if you understood what they said about the EP rezoning, because it was a large swath of land there that was zoned EP, and as I understand it, it extended onto your property, as you can see from that graphic up there, the EP.
And that's my understanding, is that our property goes down too, but not reaching as far as the creek. And it was of some concern to me when I looked at that, well, the drawing that was in this,
yes,
that it looked as though these subject lands actually cross over the creek, which my understanding is that the lands on either side of the creek for some distance, not huge, but some distance of that wetland either side of the creek at the bottom there, were EP for both parties, the people who are on the other side of the hill and on our side of the hill.
Right, so your land was north of the creek and included some woodland that was EP.
Correct.
We're shrinking the EP zone within the property in question tonight to 26 meters either side of the water course.
26 meters either side of the watercourse.
Yes, that's what I wanted you to understand, because you were asking for clarification, and I don't think you got all the information.
Well, certainly I misunderstood, because I did not understand that. What I had understood was that it had not been marked properly, or had not been marked for a long period of time, but that when you put the flags in now, as Pecuniary Conservation doing it, it is still now sort of in line with the plan that was previously there. And I think maybe you're saying I was under the mistaken impression that it was more than 26 meters before. That people actually can come now and cut stuff down because, you know, there is woodland there which is greater than the 26 meters you just described. Right. Am I getting it right now?
Yes, you're sort of getting it right. You are. It's just that your land won't be rezoned. It's just the parcel that we're talking about tonight. You will still have a little bit of EP on. You will still have some EP on your land.
Yes, basically from the creek up to my property line, I guess.
Yeah, well, the schedule is a little different than that. So there will be a little sliver of EP on your side of the line that doesn't really match up with the EP on the
other side.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how that was reconciled by their planning staff, because I asked the same question. Well, why would there be a little sliver of rural north of the creek when you have EP on your land? Yeah. So, but maybe the planners can answer that when we get into it. I just wanted to make sure your question was clarified for you.
Certainly I was under the impression always that the EP land, and I don't know who told me this, to go back to the earlier question, I don't know that a county staff person particularly told me, but my understanding was that EP was EP and it was not going to be, you know, removed and built upon because it was protected for a valid environmental reason, and that it was its wetlands and so on and so forth. And certainly wildlife treks along the creek there, deer and so on and so forth. So,
thanks, Clive.
Okay. I think his questions have, I think Mr. Rohrbeck, his questions have been addressed, unless you have...
No, I'm thinking about your comment. When we got environment, or the Pecuniary Conservation to go and look at the property, they only looked at the property that we that was part of this application, so they wouldn't have looked at the property on the north side of the road. Am I on the same line as you?
They didn't even look at the north. They didn't even look at the north side of the creek.
No, this was the part that was subject to the application. So we had, matter of fact, we had Pecuniary Conservation go out twice, because when we had them go out the first time, by the time we got the surveyor out there, the ribbons had got away, so we had to go back out and have it done. But they were only hired to look at the one side of the creek. We never even considered looking elsewhere. So that's. Does that answer? Yeah.
So may I just ask another question now?
Briefly, yes. We might as well get this settled.
So what Ernie said to me, I think, was that 26 meters on either side of the creek would be retained as EP. And yet I'm understanding that it sounds as though the EP is being diminished on the south side and left alone on the north side. Which of these situations is it?
Well, I'll direct that question to staff.
Through the chair, it was our understanding that was on both sides of the creek. That was our understanding of it. Our GIS technicians looked through and looked at the contours as well. But if it now, with this new information that Bill has spoken about, that he said it wasn't. So our understanding, though, was it was 26 meters on the other side.
I would just from my personal experience, they are going to flag and ground truth of the part that's under application, right? So that would not preclude the person on the other property from having the same evaluation done of the EP on their side.
Through the chair, it was just done on the subject lands.
Right.
That we can't, not lands that are under the application, only lands that are going through the application.
Okay. All right. So is there any questions from committee? No, seeing, oh, sorry.
You can ask questions after it's on the floor.
Well, I was doing it now and then putting the motion on, but yeah, Councillor Hirsch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think what we hate worst in planning is uncertainty. And we've started out this process with our current zoning map, which shows virtually the entirety of the first lot proposed to be severed as EP. Staff has told us, well, that had never been ground truthed. So Quinte Conservation came out and did that. Apparently some of the ribbons came off the trees, had to get put back on. Now we're not sure whether it's 26 meters either side of the creek or only on one side of the creek. And eventually we're going to have to create a map with the proper zoning for this property. I'm not sure we're at all clear where that is. And to complicate the matter, and I had brought this to James's attention a couple of days ago, in the draft official plan schedules, and this is Schedule B, which has been published for a couple of years now, professional work was done in identifying natural features, and this creek is shown as a coastal wetland on that map. And that was apparently done by professionals as well. So I'm really quite lost as to the extent of the area to be protected here and the certainty that we would have in granting this severance. Thank you.
Yes, to staff.
Through the chair, I had a few things. Thank you, John. So I spoke with Quinte Conservation in regards to the coastal wetland. They confirmed that they do not consider this to be a coastal wetland. And I have an email here that says they consider it to be a watercourse associated with wetlands that drain into the North Bay wetland. But also, there is a 30-meter setback required from Quinte Conservation from this watercourse, as in our bylaw as well. So with that would, and that is also for the coastal wetlands in the draft official plan, also requires a 30-meter setback. So all these setbacks, even if it were to be a coastal wetland, would be met in this application.
Councillor Margetson.
My question is related to the zoning schedule that we're going to adopt tonight. And it's on page 82 of my agenda package. And I don't have a problem with the lots. We're just trying to make sure that we get this right to the applicant here. On the bottom of that zoning schedule, it says environmental protection zone applies within 15 meters on either side of the watercourse. And I've discussed this. To me, to have that schedule say that when it's in fact 26 is not producing the correct information that's going to hang on this lot forevermore. So that makes me uncomfortable. And I said that before. And then you told me that, James told me that this is in fact drawn at 26 meters, but it says 15. It's just confusing. So in my opinion, we should have this correct before we approve this zoning bylaw schedule for this property and these severances. That's my question or comment or thoughts.
Yes,
just by way of explanation through the chair, the legend where it talks about a 15-meter setback, it should have the word minimum in there. And that's a standard thing on the schedules every time it's produced, because not always is there an EP zone associated with the creek. The 15-meter setback is a general provision within the zoning bylaw, so that's how we get it onto the schedule for clarity, that there's this trigger in policy in the zoning bylaw. So that's what the purpose of that point of the agenda. I don't disagree that it causes confusion when it doesn't say minimum of and we have additional EP area, but the EP area is in addition to the minimum of 15-meter setback from any water course. But I understand why that may not read directly that way.
So I'll ask staff, is there any way of clarifying that so that we can move forward with this comfortably this evening?
Yeah, with confidence, we know that what's been staked out there as an EP zone is the 26 meters as recommended by the Quinte Conservation Authority. James, did you need to elaborate?
And also it should be noted that with any development on this property, within 45 meters would have to go through a Quinte Conservation permit. So at that time, they would ensure that all buffers would be met, or any such type of development wouldn't be permitted. Thank you.
Right. And there is a fair slope that creek or water course flows in a fairly defined area as well, right?
Through the chair, yes, there's.
Okay. Anything further? Councillor Nyman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just looking at the legend. I just need to understand, I guess, for myself. So the lands that have the stars, I guess, in it, right now are zoned environmental protection. And I thought once it was zoned that's the way it stays. But it's saying that it's going to be rezoned again, right? Is that my understanding?
So through the changing of the EP process, tonight we aren't functionally through section 1.7 of the zoning bylaw states that zoning can change and boundaries can change in consultation with Quinte Conservation. So that's as we've done here tonight. But there has been, I think what we should do is we should propose to change the wording in the legend as to clearly communicate what is going on in the zoning schedule.
I would, yes. So well, I think if it's a staff recommended, it's not necessary. We would call this a minor revision. Okay, and if you could let the clerk, and maybe we can bring that up on the screen as well for anybody that at home. Page, it's 82, correct?
That was my page.
Yes.
Yeah, through the chair, I think staff can administratively alter the wording to add that clarity as already described on the record.
Okay, could you just stipulate what that will be, though, just for...
Through the chair, could you give us a minute to just
Yes,
wordsmith?
that's what I was...
And I have to admit, it is confusing.
You're going to ask if you're okay with that. We're just going to change 15 to 26.
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. We're back in line.
Through you, Madam Chair, staff have come up with a recommendation, so to add the clause on the last VAT of the recommendation to say that zoning amendment file number Z68-19 Lint et al. For lands located in Part Lot 31, Concession 3, Part 2, 47R 486, Ward 7, Hillier, be approved with the clarification of 26 meters in Schedule 1 of the bylaw.
Okay, and is that, yes.
And this would be a friendly amendment.
This is a friendly. Okay. Anything further from?
And the map would also say 26 instead of 15.
Yeah, that's okay. Anything further?
Well,
Councillor Margetson.
While you're cleaning it up, you might as well change the double hatch to lands to be rezoned from rural 1 to rural residential 2 to lands to be rezoned from environmental protection zone to rural residential 2, which is the top part of that legend, which I feel at this time is incorrect.
Through the chair, I concur.
Yeah, so we'll fix that up. Thank you.
Okay. Anything further?
Move it.
Email. Yes.
Oh, email. Yeah.
Okay. And if I'll take someone to put this on the floor. Councillor Margetson, Councillor Forrester.
Yeah. Okay, just a sec.
Yeah.
I'm getting it. Okay, this is a Margetson Forrester motion. And it reads that the report of development services dated January 15th, 2020 regarding consent files number B72-19 and B73-19 and zoning bylaw amendment file number Z68-19 be received, that consent files number B72-19 and B73-19 Lint et al. For lands located in Part 31, Concession 3, Part 247R 486, Ward 7, Hillier, be approved subject to the following conditions, 1 through 11, and that zoning amendment file number Z68-19 Lint et al. For lands located in Part 31, Concession 3, Part 2, 47R 486, Ward 7, Hillier, be approved subject to the minor revisions we discussed tonight. Go ahead. Thank you.
All in favor?
Sorry,
go ahead.
just for the people at home and everybody in the audience, that it be approved with the clarification of 26 meters in Schedule 1 of the bylaw and applicable map.
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor? And that carries with a 2/3 majority. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so when all up, within 15 days of council's decision, a notice of, sorry. Okay, sorry. Within 15 days of council's decision, notice of decision will be mailed out as prescribed, advising of the decision, the conditions, if any, and the date on which the 20-day appeal period to the local planning appeal tribunal expires. If no appeals are received, council's decision is final. Any person who wishes to receive notice of decision of council must submit a written request to the municipal clerk or sign the sign-in sheet. And I'll take a mover and seconder to resume sitting as council. Councillor McNaughton, Councillor Forrester, all in favor? And the meeting's back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I could have a mover and a seconder for a motion regarding recommendations arising out of the committee whole which received 2/3 majority, please. Councillor Forrester, seconded by Councillor McNaughton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a Forrester McNaughton motion that the recommendation committee of the whole agenda items which received 2/3 in favor of the staff recommendation being 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, and 5.4 be adopted.
All those in favor? That carries. We had no items being deferred, so that'll move us to item number 9, bylaws for consideration. If we could have a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Maynard, second by Councillor McNaughton. read that, please.
That the following bylaws be recommended for adoption. Read the first, second, and third time and finally passed. Bylaw 9.1.1, 9.1.2, 9.1.3, and 9.1.4.
Thank you. All those in favor? That carries. And the confirmatory bylaw, if we could have a mover and a seconder, Councillor Margetson, seconded by Councillor Forrester.
Margetson Forrester motion that the following bylaw be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. A bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the County of Prince Edward at the meeting held on January 15th, 2020.
Thank you. All those in favor? That carries. And finally, a motion to adjourn. Mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Harper and Councillor St. Jean.
It's a Harper St. Jean motion that this meeting now adjourn at 7:40 p.m.
Thank you. All those in favor? That carries. We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.